You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to
Hi everyone, welcome from your Intuition Queen to a new episode of Intuitive Queens podcast. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me Lizzie Moult, who is a spiritual and business life coach, a serial entrepreneur, a world traveler, and a modern day wild hippie. Hi Lizzie, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm happy to have you today.
Yes, on the other side of the world, here we are.
Yay, 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 yay. So, you are a lot of things, woman. I'm just really curious to understand. You are so many things, and I know like that throughout your life you have gone through a variety of situations. So, I just want to know what brought you to become a coach and do what you're doing right now, which you will tell us later on, and be all of those, wear all of those hats, and how your intuition helped you with that, if it did.
I trust my intuition, trust me, as you will all find out very shortly. So the really awesome thing is, like, you know, our story is always the journey that we take through life. And, you know, if I rewound back, you know, to my early, like, adolescent days where I finally left home and, you know, was like, yeah, I'm out in the world. This is awesome. I fell in love with art. I've always been an art design lover. I was making websites. I was like, anything I could get my hands on and, you know, revamp to make them look more beautiful was like what I loved. And it's kind of stuck with me ever since, because I studied and I was like, oh, there's got to be more to the world than where I am. And as soon as I graduated, I left. I was like, I'm out of here. I need to go and see the world. Like, I'm done with Australia. What else is for me? And I ended up in the UK and lived in the UK and Scotland for 2 years. I wanted to go and, you know, break into the design scene over there. And I was just, you know, fresh off the boat pretty much. I had 300 pounds in my pocket and I was like, well, here we go. Like, what can I do? You know, I had been working in hospitality, so getting a job in a pub with being the blonde-haired, very tanned Australian was really easy.
I can't imagine.
I worked in many pubs throughout the whole of the UK, but my whole primary goal was to go and see and experience. And in that, like, those couple of years, I really learned about, you know, me, like what it is that I loved. Like, I loved going to art galleries. I really loved being outside in nature. I really loved people. I really loved having conversations. And like, this was in my early 20s. So once my visa ran out, I came back into Australia and I had to go get a real job. Well, not a real job, but a job. And reality kicked in and I was like, oh God, here we go. I never ended up breaking through in design in the UK. It was so easy to get a pub job. It didn't really matter. And the culture around working in a pub was, you know, I just loved it. And coming back into Australia was just like, it was a rude shock. I was like, oh, damn. Like, I just felt a little bit like, oh, I've like lost a little piece of me. So as time went on, 6 months into coming back into Australia, I was like, okay, I'm bored. Like, I need something in my life. I was 23, I think it was. Yeah, 23. And I was just craving something more. So I decided to set up my own first business. I was like, that's it. I'm running art classes. I love art. I can teach anything. Give me a go at it. Why not? So I'm just going to do it. And so I did. I set up art classes and I ended up, you know, freelancing for other businesses, you know, running hens nights and teaching people how to do life drawing. And it was super, super fun.
Nice.
And I turned my art classes into one of the premier ones in the city in which I lived. It was, you know, a bit of fun. But at 23 years old back then, it was, what the hell are you doing, Liz? Why would you even want to start your own business? Like, what is that all about? And so many people questioned me. Friends were like, what? Why would you do that? And I was like, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it. I love art. I want to do more art. And there's nothing here that I like. So I'm going to do this. And that was a bit of a shock. So that was my first business. Within 2 years, I started another. Because I'd been working in catering and kitchens and front of house, back of house, you know, I had a bit of an obsession with good food. So I had this crazy idea because my grandmother was like an amazing preserve maker. And I was like, oh my God, the market just at the end of my street doesn't have anyone selling preserves. Why not? I was like, I really want a jar of marmalade. So I had to like figure out a way to make marmalade. I've never made marmalade in my life, but before I know it, I have a regular jam stall. And, you know, I had 2 businesses going and did a few little side gigs on the side to, you know, just cover rent and things. But predominantly my businesses actually were my thing. Like I was just so in love with doing that. And so I guess that whole serial entrepreneur thing was just like, it was in my blood. I just like, that's it. I'm doing what I love. I'm not questioning anything else. And yes, my first business was an art class. Yes, my second one was like running a jam company. My third one ended up selling vegetables and running cooking classes.
Oh my God.
From a farm that we had after my husband and I got married and traveled again. Once again, recurring theme, travel. I loved seeing the world and experiencing culture. So once we were on our farm selling veggies, you know, we'd had a blog along the way as well, this journey of like how, you know, from traveling to food and experiences that we had and educating people. I ended up speaking at a lot of places about sustainable living, how to grow veggies, how to cook, you know, clean and all these sort of things. And then I had a little baby girl. Life changed once we had a little girl. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Turns out my husband was way more affected by her presence than I was because he was fly in, fly out. So 6 weeks after she was born, he had to go back to work for the very first time. And it was, I must have been, 6 weeks, and he was fly in, fly out. So he was away for, I think it was 2 weeks, so 14 days. Might have been 16. I can't remember now. But anyway, not really important. But he was away for that first 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks, his heart, I could hear it when he spoke to me. You know, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, his heart is breaking here because he missed his daughter so much. And I was just like, okay, well, how can we solve this problem? Time went on. I knew there was like something going on, but he was actually on the sly hunting for jobs, which was really awesome of him because he's like, I can't do this. Like I miss my daughter every single time. And she knew as well. Like it was really an amazing thing to watch, you know, her just being so observant at such a young age of when her dad left. And when he also came home, she's just like, I don't want anything to do with you, Mum, except for food. Give me my dad. You know, and that was a hard time. So what ended up happening is my husband got a new job, which was in the Northern Rivers, which we live now. But it meant that we had to give up our farm. I was the happiest person I had been. Like, you know, I swear as you get older, you get happier and happier and happier. You keep like tuning in and fine tuning like what's right for you. And I had to let go of this dream that we were building. We'd been living on this property for 3.5 years. We planted over 1,000 trees. We had an acre of organic veggies that I sold every Friday. We had like a flock of 50 chickens. Me and Isla would go and spend like every afternoon in the paddock sitting down with the chooks and just, you know, being in the wild. And it was bliss. And I was just like, I just wanted to like build up this property. So it was like this, I was teaching the cooking classes and we were doing gardening workshops and all these things, which we were doing, but we wanted to do more of them, but we just still didn't have all the infrastructure. So to let all that go, that was dream, like soul crushing dream letting go. And we moved to the Northern Rivers and we moved into a little town, which was really lovely called Mullumbimby. And I remember looking at our little vegetable garden. It was literally 3 meters by 3 meters. And I was like, that's not a garden. It's like a giant pot. I was like, what? I was in shock. Our backyard was tiny. I was totally out of my depth. I grew up in the country. So for me, having chooks, veggies, you know, it's a normal thing. So to not have that, it was just kind of like a bit of a culture shock for me. But what I did find that I loved was that I had the ability to walk around town and like feel into like a new space and a very different way of living. And once we moved there, I think that's when my brain started like over analyzing because I was out of my comfort zones.
Right.
I was so uncomfortable. You know, like as much as I enjoyed it, when I look back and go, wow, this is the triggering moment that I'm like, stuff it. I'm not blogging anymore. I'm not running up like, you know, workshops. I can't talk about gardening. I don't even have a garden, you know, like I just couldn't do it anymore. And it started to get really hard. So I knew it was time to stop. My intuition said it's time to stop as well. Like I just knew.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do? So I think my daughter was 1.5 by the time I finally quit the blog. And then my son was born when she was 2. So they're 2 years apart. So around the time that he was 2, we ended up buying a house and started renovating it, like a couple of streets over from where we already lived in town. And I really got to questioning, I'm like, okay, you know, like who are the people in my life that I have admired and have helped me along the way? And there was one incredible woman who's a kinesiologist, and she's always blown me away. Every single time I saw her, I was just like, oh man, like, it's like I was going to therapy. Like the fact that my body was telling me stuff as well, it was just like so cool. Like, you know, I made some pretty epic decisions on the table in that kinesiology, those sessions, you know, from quitting jobs to like, you know, saying goodbye to like ex-boyfriends and all the things, like, you know, and I was just like, I want to make that sort of difference in people's lives. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to become a coach, but I'm going to become a business coach, an online coach, because already people were asking me, Liz, how do you build a community? How do you build like such a following? Like, so our blog used to get, I think it was like 2,500 hits a day.
Wow, that's
on
a
our
lot.
website, which is a lot. I used to get paid to go and travel and talk about stuff. I used to get huge amounts of things. So everyone's like, well, how do you get to do that? Like, how do you run Facebook ads? How do you like build a tribe? Like, how do you create content? How do you? And so I wanted to find a better way to help people because like I can really rant as we're talking right now. I'm like, I haven't stopped.
I'm not stopping you.
You know, I love to teach people and I'm a natural teacher and I love to teach. So, but I wanted to find a more gentler approach because once again, going back to that incredible woman, the kinesiologist, you know, I always felt like I was in power. I made the decisions and I wanted to be able to give that to others as well. So I went on my coaching journey. My son was 6 months. I was renovating a house full time. It was nuts. I don't know how I managed to do it for the next 9 months, but the time the course had finished, I had a 9-month-old and we were moving house again. We were really fortunate. My parents-in-law live on an MO, otherwise known as a multiple occupancy or a hippie commune. It's run from the 80s. This is where the Lonely Planet was created, everybody, FYI, where I live. I'm not kidding. They had a house come up for sale and we were like, oh my God, we need to jump on this. Because the first time my husband brought me to their property, I was like, oh my God, this is like a magical rainforest. I want to live here. I didn't know that 12 years later, I would actually be living here in the house next door to my parents-in-law. So we live off grid completely. We have no phone reception. Our water comes out of a mountain, fully solar. The closest power line's like over 2 kilometers away. So it's like just under a mile, I guess, in UK metric system there. And that's when I realized, like, okay, you know, like, you can get what you want, but sometimes it takes time to get what it is. You know, it's 12 years since that statement of like, oh my God, I would love to live here. But when I was even younger, one of the things I always wanted was I wanted to live next door, like my house to be near a creek so I could hear the sound of water running. So blissful. But trees, I didn't have many trees growing up as a kid. I just wanted to be surrounded by trees and on a mountain. I now have all of that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's taken time to get here.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's been dreams that have been let go of, you know, with my other property. But to be able to live here now and just be going, oh my God, I am so happy. And my business is like been on a rocky adventure itself in the last, you know, couple of years as well. So,
yeah. Wow, you have such a powerful story. There are a couple of things that I want to ask you, going a little bit back.
Yeah, go for it. Let's go.
You talked about, I'm very much interested to when you talked about being so young, like 23, and having this wanting to start your business and having those businesses, and I love that you said you really love what you were doing, and so you went for it, but then you had everybody else telling you what you're doing, because I can imagine how being in another country, you do what you want and nobody really sees you, and then when you come back you kind of have to get a job because you have to do what everybody does. Yeah. And you didn't, and you just went for what you really wanted, and you proved that you can, and you also added on a second business. So I kind of wanted to understand, how did you manage to find the strength within you when you had everybody against you? Because I feel that this is a common topic that comes up with all of my clients, friends. I had to go against my family a lot of time to be able to do what I wanted, because they couldn't understand what is it that I had in my head, and I was crazy. But this is like something that I hear so many times, and this is the reason why so many women are so confused, and they don't know how to move forward. Not because they don't really know what to do, but it's more like, how do you, they feel like they betrayed the family, or they shouldn't. So I'm really curious to know, where did you find your strength to continue to move forward?
That's a really great question. I want to share with you something really funny. So this is what people used to call me, Lizness Business. I lived in a share house. There was 4 other people. Oh, Lizness Business is back in the house. You know, like, seriously, I was made fun of for doing this, you know, and that's the thing. Like, times have changed now. A 23-year-old can start a business, and it's more accepted than what it was back then. And I'm talking like 15 years ago. Like, how old am I? I think that's about right. Totally different times. So yes, I had to be strong. And I think in your early 20s, you do have more rebellion. Like, I definitely have a rebellious streak of like, I need to prove myself wrong. Sorry, I need to prove myself right, not wrong. Goodness. I need to prove myself right and prove to others that I can do this.
Yeah.
I still have people in my life, including family, even from starting that first business, still don't quite understand what it is that I do, or let alone how I actually make money. Never really understood it. So for me, being strong is just acknowledging what feels good.
I like that.
And what you know for you is right, which takes a lot of guts to own.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, and, you know, I've just gone through a bout of this myself in the last probably year and a half of like questioning, okay, oh my God, who am I? What am I? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, like, it does happen to all of us. We do have those moments, but when you really understand of like, okay, well, if I love to cook, well, how can I do more of that in my life? Am I meant to be a chef? Well, go and try it. Like, go try. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? you suck at it and you hate it, great. Just do it for your friends then, like problem solved. So I'm a big experimenter. This is also how I stay strong. And I'm one to always remember that it's okay to make mistakes. Because I've made plenty, like heaps.
Yeah.
I have made so many mistakes through businesses. And, I've learned the hard way how to do things. But that's because, one, I have that rebellious side. Like, you don't want to tell me what to do at all. I would literally go and do the opposite.
Like me.
And
my mom hated me for that. She was like, why do you never do what I tell you? Because you tell me.
Exactly. Don't tell me. You can show me something. Absolutely. But don't tell me that's how it's meant to be done. Because, all of us are different and unique. So the way that I might approach, running an art class might be really different from you. You'd be like, well, actually, I'm really into pottery and I really want to get our hands dirty. I was like, no way in hell, that's not me at all. I'm like, let's experiment with like wild costumes and stuff. Like that's way more fun. So you have to trust on who you are. And it comes from a place of feeling.
I like that.
And I was totally made fun of.
Yeah. I can't
and people
imagine.
Always,
because you were different and you were courageous, which doesn't happen many times when, especially at that age when you're supposed to have a good job.
Yeah, right.
Or at least
good job. But what is that?
Exactly.
Are you happy?
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. I changed so many jobs in my 20s, not because it was always like there was an opportunity and so I will move forward, or I wasn't happy and I will look for every time was a battle with my parents. They're like, but you have a good job, you have a safe and secure job. I'm like, yeah, but this is better position, better money. Yeah, but I was like, okay, next time I'm not going to tell you that I'm changing. I'm just going to change. Yeah.
And that's another thing as well. Like, I think, for me, people weren't wired to be happy in their jobs back then. Like, it's much more acceptable. Like, I've had people start businesses because they've watched me over the years and have like, Liz, you've inspired me to start my own business. Like I've had many, many people come and tell me that.
That's beautiful.
Because, and it's taken years for them to do it themselves because they realize how ballsy it actually is to do that, to stand on your own 2 feet and do it.
Yeah.
But, having the better job, the better paycheck doesn't equal happiness.
Yeah.
And I am from the country. I grew up in the country and I saw my parents work all the time. It's the weekend. What are we doing? Working. It's time to get up. We're working. And when do we stop working? When the sun goes down. You work and you work and you work. And I really had some crazy beliefs around money and working. And I wanted to prove to them like I could do it in an easy way.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
And also that I was happy. And that was like my main thing. Like I really wanted to be happy.
Yeah. And you touch upon another topic that keeps on coming back, which is see your parents working hard and telling you that you need to work hard if you want to achieve something, and then that not necessarily things are easy. This is something that I had a couple of sessions the last 2 weeks with some clients, and I felt like I was coaching the same person because she told me the exact same thing, and this is like the old way of seeing things, and this makes them even more not understanding what you're doing and why you're leaving this safe and secure job that gives you so much money when you need to work hard. And it's not true. You need to be smarter, and you can work in a different way. It doesn't have to be hard. And as you said, that you wake up with the sun and you go to bed with the sun. It doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. And, for many years, I wanted to like please them and like, yes, I've got the job. I've got this and I'm doing this. I got my diploma. I'm a fully fledged graphic designer, yay. But I did that for them. And as much as I saw that their work and I wanted to be happy, like, yeah, it was time to change the system and the rules.
Yeah.
And it's the thing, it's like, what do we actually believe? Like, I worked through that belief. Like, it still pops into my head every now and again. But it must have been like 3 or so years ago of like that real heavy belief of like, I have to work hard.
Mm.
And because I applied that to business as well, you know,
Yeah.
like I literally had an art class, which ran twice a week. I had a jam company, which I worked 3 times during the day, and then on an early Saturday for a full Saturday. And then I still had like a few odd jobs to like help pave the way a little bit. Because also my always end game was to like go travel, always to travel. So, you know, having any extra cash. So I worked my butt off. And there is times that, yes, you can work your butt off for a reason and it feels good. But then there's those times that you're like, I've had jobs and, you know, like, oh, I'm just going to go and try and be a chef at this place. Why not? And then it just gets really hard and it starts feeling really icky. You're just doing it because you're trying to keep everyone happy because, you know, you're like, your boss is kind of nice, but you don't fit really.
Yeah.
And it's not filling your cup. Like, yeah, you just need to know that there's a difference there.
Yeah, I like this. I think this is what we do even without really realizing that we're doing this. And until it becomes almost unbearable for us to be doing what we're doing. And then at that point, we need to stop and ask ourselves and then understand exactly where we want to go and what else we can do. But I feel that this, I'm doing it for them, is such a thing that we say so much, especially women. We say so much, oh, I'm doing it for them. And I think I'm doing it for my parents. I'm doing it to make them proud. I'm doing it to stop them from bothering me, or whatever that is. And in doing it so much for others, we forget who we are and what we really want. And this is what blocks the flow of us maybe stepping into a new business or changing career and not feeling that you have everything under control, and so frustration kicks in even more because you think it's you, but the reality is just you don't really know who you are, and so whatever you try doesn't work.
Yeah, no, crazy. So, you know, I think the last 2 years, that whole questioning of who I am, you know, that whole I actually started just looking after everyone else because I'd stopped experimenting so much. I was like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe these people would be really proud of me if I, you know, go down this road. Maybe, what if I try this? You know, I put on an event like mid last year. I had 19 speakers. I had Denise Duffield Thomas on my stage. I had some other really incredible speakers. And, you know, I got some feedback. I was like, Liz, why weren't you up there more? And I'm like, I was like, it wasn't really about me anyway. I was just happy to I put on the event. You know, I didn't realize that I had done it. And it was really interesting for me to note that happened, because I thought maybe I was just the surrogate person that helps other people to stand up. But, you know, in the past, I've been such a leader. You know, I've just gunned it. I've paved my own way. I'm doing it me. But I think something always triggers us into that deep questioning. And yes, a lot of us do it. And a lot of us don't even know that we're actually doing things to seek approval. And it's not just from family members, it's our friends, it's our partners. You know, it's the post lady, you know. Oh, I need to make sure the mailbox is not wet. Like, why? Like, come on. You know, like it's absolutely crazy, and it causes anxiety having to worry about what everyone else thinks because you're trying to make them happy.
Yeah. So you said something just now, like, I used to be a leader and then I slipped into this, what everybody thinks, maybe this. What do you know? What was the shift? What happened? Like, how did you get from being a leader and looking after yourself, knowing what you wanted, to what I know you wrote an ebook about people pleasing. So what made you slip into that?
Great question. And it's really funny. I don't think anyone's actually asked me this, and I hadn't explored it. And now I actually know the answer
Oh,
because I
oh.
just spoke about it earlier. I'm like, that's it. So when we left our farm, I let go of a huge dream. It was so big, like it was so deep to my heart. Like I'd worked that property every single day. I had built an epic foundation of a business, online business, and I had to walk away. Like I took the blog with me and I kept it going for some time, but it didn't feel right anymore. And I don't think I actually ever grieved because it felt so right.
Right.
Like that dream, like it was effortless. I was just writing 7 blog posts a week. I had newsletters going out every week. I had content on my socials. It was just so easy because it was everything I loved into who I was. And then, it stopped. And I stopped it as well because I was like, it stopped feeling right because I felt like I was trying to push stuff. And, that's not a great place to like create from at all. So for me, that was probably the moment where I started questioning myself. So I think my journey started when my son was born. So 4 years ago, that deep journey of trying things on and questioning who I am at a deeper level has been, some pretty epic journey shifts and work over the last 4 years, and especially the last probably 3 months as well. A lot has unfolded, and I can finally say like, that's it, I'm putting my leader pants back on. I'm like, let's do this. I'm good again. I'm finally back in flow because I know who I am again. And it takes a bit of time sometimes when I keep telling people like I've derailed somehow. I derailed and I've come back on to the rail tracks again, which is great. But all through that process, I kept moving and trying things still as well.
I like this.
Yeah, I was like, I was 20 again, but I wasn't. And I have
you
less
just
rebellion.
change the way you try things, I guess. Like instead of moving country and just take off from a day to another, you just have to reorganize differently. I like that you said that, it takes time, and you started trying things again anyway. So what did you think was, how did you at some point decided, okay, so now I kind of found myself? I guess what I'm asking you is like, what was your process? Yes, trying different things, but what does that really mean for you?
So trying new things, like I call it the great pivot, like we're always pivoting in our lives. Like, I'm going to start a new health regime. That's like you're pivoting, you're changing the way that it was. I'm forever changing little pieces of me, but I'm also ever only changing one thing at a time. And if you try and do it all at once, it's just like a big clusterfuck. Your head explodes. I swear. Sorry,
it's overwhelming. No, go ahead.
Like it becomes a lot. So for me, I intuitively knew that my next event kind of wasn't going to work, which was scheduled for May this year. Obviously, coronavirus, you all know, of course, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
However, I got signs, months and months prior. There was like bushfires here in Australia. I couldn't sell a ticket. It flooded. I couldn't sell a ticket. Coronavirus. Okay, I'm done. Hands up. I surrender.
Now I'm finally done.
I'm finally done. I'm listening. Finally listening. But during the process, I realized, I had this urge to write again. I know that I'm a great writer. I'm really shit at grammar, but I am a really great writer. So I always have someone fix my grammar after I've written. But I knew that was something I wanted to do. And I just kept this thing on my head, like, I need to be a writer. I need to be a writer. I'm living off grid again now, completely. We have a huge veggie garden. Maybe I should get the old blog going again. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And, I kind of fiddled with a few things, and the blog is back up and running, which is great, our old blog. But it's not really my passion now. Because what I've realized through coaching is how much I can help people change their lives. And I've always had this element of spirituality to me. you know, I just never realized, you know, it was actually a spiritual thing. You know, this is
Yeah.
why I can call myself a modern day hippie, because I didn't know I was spiritual. It was just a way of being. You know, I grew up reading the moon and understanding and observing things. And yeah, I think you just kind of have to trust the process, don't you? Like, you just got to try things. If it doesn't feel right, move on. What's next? And allow yourself to grieve as well. Like, acknowledge the failures. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people watched me grieve for 2.5 weeks. And I'm talking ugly tears. I'm talking, I didn't get off the couch. I cried. My event was not happening. I was just super sad, but also felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, because
Yeah.
finally my intuition gave me a big slap across the face to get back into my own flow, which was writing. And that was the key element of my blog, was writing. I missed writing.
Yeah. I love this, and the reason why I asked you about your process is because obviously you talked about when you were younger, you were traveling, you were going, and you didn't have kids at that point. But I know there are a lot of women that have families, and so when you start to say, "Oh, just experiment, be curious, do different things," they go into panic, like, "How do I do it with kids?" And you
Yeah,
talked
right.
about something very simple, like change your diet, or do
One
things
thing.
that you are doing in your life right now just differently, change, you know, little steps, the way you go to work, instead of going that way, change your route or whatever. Anything that is small but can make that little bit of a difference within you, in order
Yes.
for you to give you more inspiration and to make you really understand who you are and what you want. I love this completely, because we always think about big changes or things that are extraordinary, where the reality is it's little by little. And I love that you said one thing at a time, because otherwise we get overwhelmed and we do nothing. And so we're
Yeah,
back
that's
to
where
square one.
procrastination hits in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do I do today? Oh my God, there's like 50,000 things.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I love this so much. So thank you
Yes,
for
I'm
this.
very practical. No, that's the thing. I'm very practical. And that's the thing. Like, I've got 2 kids, like, you know, mine is 6 and 4. I only work 2 days a week. I work nights when I can, and an occasional Saturday I will do as well, if I need to like make up for anything extra that I've missed during those 2 days.
Yeah.
But I manage my time well. But I also acknowledge that right now, my priority, once again, you know, like, I've made the choice to be an entrepreneur and still to see my kids grow up.
Yeah.
You know, I made that choice. So if my business is not huge as what I want it to be right now, well, it makes sense. I'm only working 2 days a week.
Yeah.
That's totally okay.
Yes.
But it still makes me happy to do the work. And when I know that they go back in 5 days, yes, I've got more time then. So what am I going to do when those 5 days comes? Like, dream about it, think about it, and start going, well, if I'm going to do that, what can I do now for when that time does come?
Yeah.
So if that's taking a course, is that learning, like, you know, why Instagram algorithms keep changing, whatever it is, like, you can do like little things.
Yeah.
But it's taking the pressure off.
Yeah. And I also like that you said, you know, it takes time. 2 things that I really like: this taking time, because it's not that you sign up to a coaching course, you become a coach, which is true. Yes, you are a coach, but then it takes time. And we are all very different. Some of us take a few months, some of us take years. We all have a different process. And I love that you said this. And also you talked about grieving, something like having to change your way of living because you moved country and you left a dream behind. And I think this is super important, because we think we only need to grieve when we lose someone, but also when you have to make an important decision about your business or about your career, there is probably a piece of you that wants to stay and a piece of you that knows needs to move on. And so if you do move on, for whatever reason you do, you have to allow yourself to grieve what you have left behind, because that's a part of you anyway. And I love this. I think this
Yes,
is
yes,
very
yes.
important.
Everyone needs to grieve. Like, and we all grieve differently, but a lot of people don't give themselves permission to do so.
Mm.
One of the things that I'm a big believer, like being an entrepreneur for such a long time, like my automatic go-to response is, okay, what's next? Brush it off. What's next? I still do this, but now that I'm older and wiser, I also know that grief, like, you know, for me, like I'd spent 9 months and I actually put my coaching business on hold for those 9 months to create this next event. And, you know, that means I've walked away with like nothing for 9 months. I've lost a bit of money. That's what's happened. And a whole bunch of learning along the way. Yes. In hindsight, I learned a lot. Yes. But to acknowledge that that happened, whew, it hit me hard. But I also know that, you know, if you're going to do grief, go all out. Like I said to my husband, I'm like, okay, I'm calling it. You know, I am done. It took a lot of balls to say. I say it smiling now, but you know, I was just a blubbering mess. I'm like, just pretty much I just locked in his arms and just like, hold me. And the tears, of course. But I said to him, look, I'm really sorry, but probably for the next week or two, you're going to have to pick up a bit of the slack around the house because I feel like shit. And I'm going to own that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, being open about it and choosing who's going to like ride the wave with you. And you don't need to be like, I guess, oversharing all the time because it's your journey of grief. And one of the things that I did so much journaling. I did so much journaling. I pretty much live with a cup of tea and a book. Yeah, to move through the process. And once again, that was me. I like to write. So some people like to dance and move.
Yeah.
I did a bit of that with my kids. But, you know, I was trying to get out of the funk. Like towards the end, I was like, okay, I need to bring dance back into my world because it like really gets me going.
Yeah.
But that was towards the end. I knew that was a piece. But first I had to really feel and honor the everything.
This is super important. And as you said, we brush it off. We need to go. And it's amazing that you have a partner, husband that supports it and understand this was needed for you to do. Because otherwise you could have not been the right, like a mother that was full on into her power, and you could not rebuild a business and be yourself. So this is super important because you allowed yourself to ask for help when I know it's very difficult to do for everybody. And as women, we think we can multitask and do so many things, but there is a time where we need to ask for help and just be and do whatever it is, whatever process we have to go through to allow ourselves to shed whatever we have left behind and allow ourselves to renew or refine that spark and go back on our feet.
Yes, it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. But I think also once you realize that you are the center of your universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can finally ask what it is that you want.
Yeah.
Because you no longer, that's the thing, like I was pleasing everyone else. Everyone's needs were in front of mine, and like to lump in a heap for like 2 weeks and just fully own it. Yeah. It's big. But yeah, support's good.
I love it. Oh, I love this. And so now you're back on track. And what is it that you decided it's the new you? What do you do now? Who do you help?
Yes. So I'm helping many people all of a sudden. Through my grief process, I journaled my heart out and realized how much of my life I have actually been pleasing others and putting other people's needs in front of mine. So many people would never believe that that would be me at all, because I've run my own business. I've been like, you know, doing my thing, following my passions. But then there's like different little things, like from friends to like, you know, old bosses and things where I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do the extra 14 hours. Sure, no worries. You know, like you just do it because you're like, I don't want to let them down. Oh my gosh, I want the job next week as well. But, you know, we please others. And I had a mentor of mine. I knew that I wanted to write because I was already writing. I was like, I need something worthy to write. And she sent me an assignment of like, well, Liz, did you realize like this is your biggest thing that you keep doing and you keep saying it? You're like, oh, I did it again. I'm like, oh God, okay. Got a big slap in the face. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Because I was trying to please her. Get that. She caught it. And I was just like, oh, this is hilarious. It's kind of embarrassing. So she's the first story in my little ebook that I wrote. So I went ahead and I wrote so many stories about how I gave my power away. And so that's now stemmed the work that I do. So I'm coaching, I have a couple of group programs. One at the moment that I'm running is all about how to embody who you are. And like trusting your spirit and trusting your intuition, because I think, as you know, like so many of us are detached from it. And, you know, I was derailed for a while, 100%. Because I know in the past that I trusted my intuition. I just lost my track there a little bit. But it takes one to know one as well. So I wouldn't be able to teach the people that I'm working with now if I hadn't have lost track somehow.
Yeah.
So
I'm sharing because you understand more of yourself, what it means to be without and what it means to be with it.
Yes. And so sharing the process of how to get back in tune with yourself. And I've got another course coming up soon. It's kind of mixing spirituality and the business side of things. So how to be more visible online, but in a really authentic way. So I'm mixing like the spiritual way to do business, because I'm not a pusher anymore. Like the last 4 years I was pushing. I'm like, I don't push. And before, when I wasn't pushing, everything was working honky-dory too. So like I know what a business can do without having to push. Like I've done it before. And now I'm doing it again. Like things are working effortlessly. So I kind of mix spirituality with business online. That's where I'm at. So a little bit of coaching. Yeah.
I love this. And I think you said, you know, it doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to push. But we have been trained to push. And I put myself in there because the amount of times that when I had a coach or I realized myself that I'm like, I have this goal to have to do this. And, you know, because it's okay to, of course, you make a plan and you set dates, you set times, you set things that you need to do. And then you get into this mode. And I tend to do, because I am a Cancer sign, so I'm a starter. I need to do, so I get into that mode where I need to do, and then I get tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, not feeling my intuition. Messages. And that's where I need to stop and just do something else and just be a little bit more creative and use my hands and do something more fun, where I can really stop being up here in my head and just really get into my heart and understand, maybe, you know, yes, I have this goal, but that doesn't necessarily mean I need to do all of those things right now. You know, and so I love this, because this
one
is
thing at
a
time.
Like that was my big learn from last year, when I left my job and I started this thing for a time. I was like, yeah, I need to do this and that, and you get lost a little bit, you get overwhelmed, and then you learn one thing at a time, and things take time. So stop looking at who says, oh, you know, I left my job and I got to so many clients that I'm like, okay, fine, maybe that worked for her, it doesn't work for me, and that's okay.
Yes, it's really funny because I actually struggle. I'm not a very good coach. I'm a great coach, but I coach people to be more in tune and in flow. So I create frameworks, like a flexible framework for people, instead of like, well, that suits them, because that's the thing. Like we're all so different. But whatever the person needs to like focus on, you know, it's like, well, if you need to focus on Instagram for the next 4 months, like let's go all in on that. Not worrying about how to write an email right now. Like, that's not a priority. Like,
Yeah.
let's get honed in on the one thing that you might need.
Yeah.
And that same goes with your, like, the spiritual self and looking after yourself. Like, if you need to look after your health, like, go all in on that for a while. Stop worrying about like the 50,000 things you might need to do for your business. They can wait.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the right time. Your health needs to be better before you actually run a business.
And also because like when you want to push on something when you should really be focusing on your health or something else, that other thing is not going to go. That other thing is not going to give you the result that you plan, that you want, that you should, because you need to do something else. And once you tune into yourself, you know what it is that you need to do, and it's going back again to what you were saying at the beginning. It's feeling good about it, and once you feel good about it, then you know you are on the right track, and this is exactly what you need to do. And you step up the more you go. Okay, so as you said, now I know my thing about Instagram, so I feel very comfortable about this. It doesn't take me so long to create what I'm creating. I can move on to something different and learn something else. And this is a process, but we have been told that we need to be all in straight away, and that's where a lot of people freak out, and then a lot of women start the business and stop the business and go back to a job that not necessarily is what they wanted. And
Can I tell you the answer? It's called time management.
Yeah, girl.
I'm a mama with 2 kids. I'm like, I time manage, and this is the thing. It's funny because we're actually working on in my group this week. We're looking at creating our own framework, but one that works for us. So we're creating when we're most creative. We're being mum when we need to be mum. And working when we can, and know how much time we actually have for our business each week, and only planning the tasks that can be done that week. Not, here's my list of 50 things to do in 10 hours. No.
Yeah.
Like, get realistic, you know, and stay in your lane. This is the other thing as well. I find a lot of people, comparisonitis, you know, once they get going.
Yeah. But it's one thing that, like, with this lockdown, I've of course my clients, which mainly are women that want to either change career and start their business, or there are business owners that get stuck and so need to go back into themselves. But I also have a lot of friends that have a job and they're pretty okay with that. And one thing that I heard so much saying was like, I need to learn to be okay with the fact that I haven't done everything I'm supposed to do. And when it comes the time, I need to stop. Because obviously, if before it came the time 6-7 o'clock and you will leave the office, that will allow you to stop working. But now, because a lot of people have been working from home, a lot of people, and this is, and I said this to a lot of my friends, like, once it's over, it's over. You need to give yourself a time. This is not even your business.
Treat your business
I
like
had
a business.
to learn exactly. I had to learn business with my business to give myself time, because otherwise I was on a roll. Like, oh, let me send this email. Oh, this person just, and I was like, no, it is time during the weekend, during the week, and weekends from now on. I'm not going to be working, because otherwise, what's the point? But with people working in corporate still, I've heard this. I'm like, no. If you don't do it with your business, and it's your business, let alone with a job that it's like you're an employee and you have to stop. You haven't sent that email, it's okay. The fact that you're not moving from where you are doesn't mean that you have to continue. And I heard a lot of people saying, I need to feel okay with the fact that I haven't completed everything I was supposed to do. And this is a big thing. It's
well, it's our own like pleasure kicker, really, isn't it? It's like, I've got all my things done. Well, guess what? You don't necessarily get them all done all the time.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people need to give themselves a break and set themselves real hours, but also the tasks.
Yeah.
be realistic. Like, if you're working 2 days a week, you know, can you actually pull off an epic launch? Like, realistically, like, I've got the background in launching. Yes, I can plan one on a Saturday, but I don't have the manpower to run one in 2 days fully for a whole week. Like, that is epic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, for me to run a launch, it actually takes me like months to like get everything ready now because I'm only working so little days.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's having that choice. And, you know, going back to emails, checking, oh my goodness. From my blogging days, you know, even rewinding 10 years ago, I've never had apps on my phone. And I would watch people, I'm just going to reply to this email real quick. I'm like, we're not even like working right now. This is time to be social. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, you got to draw the line at when you're on in your business and when you've signed off.
Yeah. I had to learn that because and just because I realized that just made me feel more overwhelmed and tired and less inspired the day after. And so I was like, this is not working. And a lot of people told me, Mara, times, you know, it's over. Like, it's not that now that you have your own business, you are on a go constantly. You have to allow yourself because the thing is, like, we want to manage our time and then we don't manage our time. I wanted my business because I wanted to be free to manage my time. And then I started to feel guilty because maybe I was taking the morning off because I didn't feel like doing much. And I was like, oh, let me go for a walk so I clear my head. And then I come back and I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything. So let me, and it's all that thing because you have to release all the old programming that you have.
100%.
And be like, a business owner means that you have times, and that's okay. You do what you can within that frame time. And that's okay. Yeah.
I'll just give everyone a heads up. So post-it notes for everyone. I like my savior. As a mum with the 2 kids, I literally write a list of 3 things that I would like to achieve for the day. Sometimes there's like a personal thing in there, like, you know, cancel or pay a phone bill or something like that. Sometimes that's one of my 3 things. Because realistically, you know, I want to try and get stuff done, but I always highlight one of them as the must-do task for the day. Now, this comes with discipline. So yes, have a framework, but if it gets to 8 o'clock at night and your one thing hasn't been done, you know, like, it kind of like, I believe that you need to do the one thing, and like, it shouldn't be overwhelming either. We're talking like, you know, create a post or, you know, like one little thing. It's not like plan a launch. Like, that's ridiculous. That's a full day job. But, you know, like one little thing that you can do every day.
Yeah.
Even just respond to an email or clean out your inbox, whatever it is. Like, I feel having that has totally changed my world because I used to have my list. If I showed you, you'd probably fall over. It's actually not too bad today. Like, this is my work week. It's like, it's not too bad. There's some stuff crossed off, but yeah, I usually just have a post-it note for each day and I stick it on my laptop, and like, that's the 3 things I need to do.
Yeah. I have a little book and I have my 3 things as well because I realize it actually makes so much more sense. And then I have other things that obviously I kind of want to do, but that if it doesn't happen, it's okay.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like, those 3 things are helping you to get to the big thing, hopefully. You know?
Yeah, that is so true.
Like, it could be like, oh, I need to research like my new podcasting microphone. Great. Do it. I'm like, cool, that's on my list. Yes.
It's so true. Sometimes we forget the most stupid things that are so quick to do, and we get so fixated on the big things, and actually writing it down makes such a big difference because once you've done it, and then you can move on. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Tell us where we can find you if we want to work with you.
Okay, so you can head over to my website. It's www.lizzie, Lizzie Moult, Moult.com, and That's kind of like my homepage. I designed it myself.
Ooh,
My graphic design
designer
skills.
there.
I do
See,
the odd website.
that helped.
Exactly. You don't know what you do in the past ends up helping you in the future. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
So yes, that's why this is my home. Otherwise, probably best place is Instagram these days. So Lizzie Lizzie_Moult MOULT is probably the best place else to find me.
Okay, well, all
Yeah.
the show notes all the details will be in the show notes, and for whoever is watching on YouTube, it's gonna pass by here, so you can see it from there. But the show notes is probably the best way to get the right links. And before we wrap up, if you could give an advice to the women listening, what you think is something important that they should know.
It's okay to say no. That's going to be my answer today. And I also want to emphasize that no, full stop, is a full sentence as well.
Mm-hmm.
I, even in my personal life, even in business, sometimes like no, you just need to say no flat out. And I think so many of us trip up with this small, tiny little detail. For those who like to please others, often then do a long-winded story about as to why they're saying no.
Mm-hmm.
There's others who want to justify the reason why they're saying no, and it's not necessary. You don't need an excuse. No means no, and I think more people should be happy to just say no, full stop, and mean it. So
I love it.
It takes practice as well. I've taught a few people how to say no in my life. It's bitten me in the bum, but it's actually a very good skill to have.
And it just, as I said, it's a practice, and it's also teaching the people around you that this is what you mean, and that's it. Like, there are no other questions you need to ask me. This is what I'm saying. Like, you ask me a question, this is my answer. That's it.
Yeah. Don't feel like you need to do something and say, oh yeah, when you actually deep down know that it is actually a no.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really powerful. Well, Lizzie, thank you so much for being on my podcast. This was such a beautiful conversation and so powerful. And I hope the women listening will take a lot from this.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, if anyone wants to like shout out and say hi, I'd love to say hi. So please do come by and ask me any questions. I love talking about people pleasing and just love talking full stop, right?
Yeah, well,
easy to justify.
Me too. We could go on and on and on with it. We need to complete here, but
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. What a powerful conversation that we had with Lizzie, and I hope you've been inspired by what she said, and I do hope that you feel like this is happening to all of us. All women will step into situations where we get lost and we don't know who we are, but as she showed you, there are so many ways you can go back to yourself, as long as you give yourself time, you take care, and you allow yourself to be and feel whatever it is that you feel. So if you want to get in touch with Lizzie, please do check the show notes. And if you want to get in touch with me, as you know, just go to theintuitionqueen.com and you can find all my offers there, my 4 months program where I'll help you to really get to a place where you can trust yourself and the messages that you receive from within. And from there, your creativity is going to flow and you can start to manifest whatever it is that you want and be in that energy of receiving and allowing yourself to be who you are. So just check my offers on my website, and you can find me on Instagram as theintuitionqueen.com, as the Intuition Queen, or on Facebook. I hope this episode helped you, and do give us some stars and do leave us comments, and I will see you next week. Ciao.
Your future's at the door.